Well, you can imagine how I felt. I flew out of that tent, I was so frightened. And I was literally wet with sweat. My clothes were stuck to my body, and I was shaking. And this was like, everyone in there, the curfew there at Faith Camp, everyone had to be in bed at 11, and there was no one there to speak to. So I remember just walking around this campsite all night thinking, what was that? What did happen there? I just couldn't work it out. And I was trying to think, well, was that a throwback on drugs? Was it a chemical reaction? What was that, you know? And then the thought came to me that the last thing I was told was, I'll meet you at baptism. So I thought, right, I need to get back. I needed it to be confirmed. I thought, I need to get baptised. So the next morning, Mark's pastor, who was on the site with us, my friend Mark had brought me, it was my pastor, so I didn't used to go to church. I went directly to him and I explained to him what happened. And I said to him, I need to get baptised. I need to get baptised now, you know. And he said to me, whoa, slow down, slow down. He said, well, when we get back to the church, he said, and I said, no. Forget the church. I said, let's go and find a river right now. I said, no, I want to be baptised now, today, now. You know, I said, if there is a God, and that was God that spoke to me last night, he told me to get baptised. And he was a little bit reluctant at first. And I said to him, well, if you don't do it, I said, there's 1,000 pastors on this faith camp. I'll go and find another one. So in the end, he said, okay, calm down, we'll do it. So we went and found a river in Peterborough next to the camp. And we went to this river now. And I didn't really know much about baptism or what it really meant, you know, or anything else. And Mark was explaining it to me and everything else. But all that was going through my mind was God was going to meet me there. And if he didn't, what happened in the tent last night wasn't real. I'd gone mad, you know, and this is what I really needed to find out, whether I'd gone crazy or whether this was real, you know. So it was, like I say, it was a river at Peterborough, and it was a little hill that went up beside the river. And when I turned up to get baptised, there was about 80, 90 people turning up, and I remember thinking, all these people thinking, who are they? What are they doing here? And I was getting a bit worried now, feeling a little bit, what am I doing, you know? And I remember standing on this little sort of mould, this pastor, Richard, bless him, made me stand there, and he said to me, Paul, if you could just explain to me what you're doing and what this means to you and everything else. And I remember looking at everyone, looking at myself, thinking, I've gone crazy, do you know what I mean? What am I doing, you know? And I was just about to come away from it, and just as I stood there to come away, I felt a warmth come through my legs, up through my body, and it was like an overpowering passion and love. To put words to what I felt, it's impossible, you know. It just made me so emotional. It just took me, you know. It absolutely took, and I knew what I was experiencing wasn't of me. You know, I was in a place of, I was just experiencing something that was not of me. Do you know what I mean? So it was the confirmation that God had promised me. So I went in the river, got baptised, and I had Pastor Richard this side, my friend Mark had brought me this side. Both of them had said they'd never felt the power of God in all their walk as Christians ever, as much as they did in that river. It was such an awesome time, you know, and I made such a declaration to God that second, and I really did give my whole life and being to the Lord, you know. I mean, this was 4 years ago.
Just 4 years
Just
ago.
4 years ago, yeah. And, I mean, at the time I was still an addict, you know. I still had an addiction to deal with. And I remember that I thought, I'll have to deal with this addiction. I was frightened, you know, and I prayed to God, you know, that would help me, you know. And I went through my withdrawals, which was normal enough, you know. The withdrawals, they hurt like they did anyone else. But once the withdrawals were gone, the desire was gone. You know, God, I mean, I actually remember praying when I went forward for Pastor Richard, and I said to him, Lord, please take this desire away from me. I didn't ask the Lord to take the withdrawals away, I asked him to take the desire. And that's what the Lord did. He just took that desire for heroin away and replaced it, you know, with his love. I mean, since then I've learned in my Christian walk that there's a lot of people in this world that they're trying to fill a desire inside of them with drugs, with money, with sex, with so many different things, and it doesn't work. But you can fill that desire with God's love, and it does work, and you can take more and more and more of, I mean, you just build you up in God and in your faith. I mean, the year after, I went back to the camp, and it was like a celebration for me, because I'm clean now. This is a year gone through, and I've been walking with the Lord, I'm working, you know. I've managed to get custody of my son, do you know what I mean? Which was, I mean, God's just pouring it on, basically, you know, giving me my whole life back, you know, and I'm just walking on a high. And when I went there to the next year at the camp, I came out of one of the seminars, and a guy came up to me, and he was a member of the college, because Pastor Colin Urquhart, who runs the camp, has actually got a college, a Bible college, study college. And this guy came up to me and he said to me that God had given me a prophetic word and that I was to go for an interview for this college, you know. And I said to him, like, I'd never thought about any college, hang on, wall, you know, what college and all this. So in the end, I went for the interview and I actually got accepted for the Bible college for the following year, which was dead right looking back. I wasn't quite ready for it at that particular moment, but the following year I was. So I ended up going to Roffey Place, which was a fantastic experience. I mean, I look at Roffey Place as a hotline to God, I do, because some of the stuff I saw there was just the miracles you see there, and the way the people in faith, it's just amazing to see, especially kids at church on Sunday laying hands on men and seeing them getting healed. And actually, this is at Kingdom Faith in Horsham. They've got their own church, which is the NLC, and it's every Sunday. You see so much, you know. And the teaching there was fantastic. I actually did a diploma in Christian ministry, which I managed to get my certificate, you know, which was great, you know. And it's just that I know there's so many people out there that are struggling with drugs and with crime and everything else that they hear the name Jesus and they don't really realise. I mean, I didn't. But I mean, the two things I actually did was I opened my heart, which was the most important thing, you know. I didn't just go forward and say, oh, if you're here, help me. I went forward and I said, God, please, if you're real, help me, please. And God heard the cry of my heart and instantly came into my life, you know, and dealt with it all basically, because there wasn't only the drugs, you know, there was the cannabis to deal with. There was a lot of issues. I mean, there's still issues in my life now that God's dealing with, you know. It doesn't happen overnight, as you well know. It's a walk with the Lord, you know. I mean, the cannabis, that was quite amazing how God did that with me. I mean, I'd pushed the heroin away. I was working, but I was coming home from work and every other day I was sitting there and I'd roll a joint, you know, and I'd sit there and I'd smoke this joint, you know, and I'd think, I think that's okay, you know, I've come off heroin, God's not going to condemn me for a joint, you know. And one day I came off work, I rolled this joint and I was just about to light it and I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, Paul, don't I give you peace? Haven't you had peace and joy off of me? And that just blew my mind, you know. And then God said to me, well, why are you trying to change your state of mind with that when I give you the peace and joy that you've never experienced? And from that day, I just, you know, it just, the way God's did it with me, I mean, it's been amazing. It's been an absolutely amazing walk. And I've got a passion for people out there now because I know that there's people out there struggling so badly, and yet they don't need to struggle, you know. They only need to call on the name of the Lord. But it's got to come from their heart, and it's no good to say, well, I'll try this, Jesus help. It doesn't quite work like that, you know. God knows your heart, He knows your being, He knows everything about you, and you really need to be in that place where you call upon Him for real, and you really do need Him to help you, and this is basically what happened to me. I mean, Steve as well. I mean, I've been praying for Steve when I became a Christian. I obviously started to pray for Steve. He's one of my best friends. We met in Pentonville quite a few years ago. And I'm sure, Steve, I'll let you tell that story yourself, because if I start to tell you how I did it, it sort of ruins Steve's testimony.